So, hello, and in this video, I'll be concluding my cycling playlist slash series from my 5 day trip from Edmonton to Calgary and then all the way to Jasper, and doing a bit of riding on the Icefields Parkway. In essence, sorry, this will be 5 lessons from the bike trip. And the first lesson is prepare for mountain weather. So my hands, or rather my left hand, is still numb, and I searched it up. This is called cycling palsy, which in essence is like nerve pressure along the exterior of your hands where the pinky are when you're on drop down bars, because all of the weight of the front of your body is essentially being pushed on this side of the hand. So yeah, I still have some like numbness in this section of my hand after like almost 2 weeks. It's been 7 plus 3, so it's been 10 days since I've got back, 10 to 11 days. And yeah, I still have some numbness in my left hand. So in terms of like just the kilometers that I did, you can't really avoid it because your hands are just, there's no other place to put your hands other than on the handlebars. But also the cold and rain definitely did aggravate this numbness. So I did have gloves, but one thing is that I would get better gloves next time, or at least like waterproof ones, because it's probably the most suffering I've ever done over a long period, which is good in the sense that now things seem much easier now. So if you do want to go through that pain, then just I want to warn you that you will have some numbness afterwards in your hands. So that's worth noting. And then another thing that I really enjoyed from this biking trip was that having no external influences over like 5 days was amazing, because I essentially was able to think for myself and not have any external factors that would change my thinking. And I was able to like have some cool thoughts and reflect on the trip and also the past. So that was nice. And I already kind of experienced this in a miniature form when I run daily and I'm not listening to any music, just like running without any headphones on. And so I kind of view this as like a protracted form of this, kind of being in nature and having only yourself to think to. And going back to kind of the pain, like a ancillary thought that I have there is that I was in the mountains and it was so beautiful. And at some points I tried to like really enjoy the view and use that as almost a distraction, but it didn't work. I really only enjoyed the view when the weather was nice, which is to say the first half of the trip. As I was coming from Calgary and I was entering the mountains, there was like, nice weather and beautiful views. But in the last 2 days of the trip, when it wasn't nice, the last 2 of the 5 days, one thing that did work was using a meditation technique of just breathing into 10, or rather like 1, exhale 2, so like 5 breaths, and then just repeating that over and over. That was really effective. And also I was just like singing songs to myself. It was another way to distract myself from the pain. So those are 2 techniques that I used. And another thing other than the gloves that I would have brought to prepare for the mountain weather are compression tights, because I only had shorts and I didn't have enough room for pants. But I realize now that like the tights that I do have, they're pretty compressible. So that would have been something that I could have brought in terms of my own comfort, and also not getting less wet. I guess it would have prevented that as well. And just overall in the mountains, you got to be cognizant that like it can get cold. Of course, I was there in September, but even in like July and August, it's possible for it to snow. So you need to just be aware of that. And then in the mountains, there's also gravity, of course. And it was quite, how do I say this? Perhaps awe-inspiring, because first of all, in certain points, you'd have a perspective of like it being a downhill or an uphill, when in reality it was like the opposite. So like the perspectives in mountains are really strange. Like sometimes I would swear that I'd be climbing like from the visual aspect, but because of the effort I knew I was descending. And in fact, one of the most reliable ways that I was able to determine the slope of what I was driving on, or riding on rather, was the river. So like there's often a river beside the highway. So based on the direction the river was going, I knew which way the road was slanting. And of course, if it was like an insane downhill or an insane uphill, then it was obvious. But like I'm talking more of like the flattish stretches where it might have been a -3 or +3 grade. In those cases, like I could really not tell visually what the grade was, other than if like there was a river. And I just thought that's interesting because of course in like the city, at least where I am, like it's flat mostly, but when there is some type of grade, you can immediately tell just from the landscape. But that was not the case. And another thing with respect to grades is that now that I'm back in the city, any hill that I do ride on is like nothing. It feels so effortless, and so short and just insanely easy, that I'm so grateful that I experienced that suffering in the mountains doing like a 509-meter climb without any breaks essentially. And now that I'm back here at probably elevation changes of at max 10 to 20 meters at a time, it feels like nothing. And then the last and most important lesson is that, well, since I did this solo, first of all, I did quite a lot of mileage, and like I should have brought cycling pants because yeah, I really took a beating in terms of my butt, and also like at certain points I had like neck pain just because of being on the saddle for like 10 hours a day. But I was doing it solo, so I don't regret that, because as opposed to like being with another person where you can kind of like stop and chill and like chat, when you're going solo, honestly, it's just the most logical and meaningful thing to do, to just keep on going. So that wasn't a problem. But in order to kind of get over the loneliness, the hostels that I went to were so helpful and like amazing, and the best part of the entire experience actually. So yeah, it's in essence to counteract this. I wasn't even lonely, but just to like have interactions with people, it was so much fun, especially because hostels in the mountains, which I just have discovered are like the best hostels ever. So I've had a lot of experience actually in European hostels, which up to now I thought were like the best kind of hostels that you could go to. But I now am completely changed in terms of opinion. Like perhaps I've never been to European mountain hostels, like Swiss hostels, but at least in Canada, the mountain hostels are amazing, solely because the people you meet there are also amazing. Because like the type of person that you meet in a mountain hostel is essentially like some adventurer. A lot of people from actually Germany, France, the UK, of course Canadians, Americans, and these are all people that just like love to explore and just love nature. So like it can't get any better than that. And like I was surprised, like in one of the hostels they had like this massive phone charging station, and like everybody just left their phone there, and like there was no even suspicion or like people being worried that somebody would steal their phone. So you can really tell like it was like a community. Like of course I had like peanut butter and electrolytes essentially, so, and bread because of my packing restrictions. But like one of the nights in the hostel, or actually multiple times, like I was offered food, and then one of the nights they gave me lentil soup, which was so good. Some of the other hostel guests, and then I met people in the hostel who eventually drove me back home because I wanted to go back anyways since the weather was bad. So yeah, hostels are amazing, and especially mountain hostels. Definitely, if you're doing a bikepacking trip, I would recommend that you shouldn't tent at least the first time. I was planning on eventually kind of doing full bikepacking with a tent after this trip, but now that I've experienced the hostels, I'm almost certain that in any future trip I will also defer to the hostels and just only pack like clothes and everything except like your sleeping gear, because it's just so much more enjoyable, and also it was really affordable. It was like $40 a Canadian per night in the hostels, which is if like in euros that must be like 25 euros a night, something like that, and for USD probably something similar to 25 or 30 American dollars a night. So it's extremely affordable, and I'm very satisfied with all of the hostels I stayed at 2 hostels, one night and another 2. And even though like one of them didn't have any showers, it was just off the grid completely. They had even Starlink though and generators, so it was still like very decent living conditions. And yeah, that's like the 5 lessons, kind of rambling about my trip, and maybe something here was worthwhile for you. Thanks.
geht. Du kannst dann gehen, ein bisschen sich bewegen